Hello friends, we are here today in Hebrews chapter 7. I'm not going to go section by section in this chapter. I'm really just going to give a little bit of context. So most of the chapter is about this guy named Melchizedek, but before we talk about him, I want to talk about why we're talking about him to begin with. So again, the point of this whole book is that the Hebrew Christians are going back to their Judaism, or at least they're thinking about it. And the writer of the Hebrews here is telling them, don't go back. You know, this is a better covenant. This is the fulfillment of Judaism. And so he's saying, you know, stay on your course. But something that is a big hurdle for the Jewish people is that they kind of have, I guess what we have today too, and it's kind of, I guess in seminary we called it the sacred cows. You know, it's not exactly what it is here, but you know, sometimes if you're wanting to change something in a church, you know, you want to change the name of the church or the church pews, or you want to change a pastor, or any change, people will reject it. But the change that they're talking about here is a very serious change, and a serious sacred cow of the Jewish people is that they kind of worshiped tradition. And not only that, they had a healthy respect for elders. And so every time someone was older, that would mean that they were greater in their culture. And so here this young guy named Jesus comes out, and they're thinking, are we supposed to revere Jesus more than our ancestors? And they were really struggling with that. But more than that, they were dealing with the Levitical law. You know, and they're saying, this guy is coming, and now we're not supposed to follow the tradition. They're saying, are we supposed to disregard the things that the Levites have been telling us to do for hundreds of years? Are we just supposed to give up all of our traditions? And so the writer of the Hebrews comes out and says that there is precedent for this. And it comes by the way of this man named Melchizedek. First person who was given a promise by God that these are the descendants of is Abraham. So in their minds, there is nobody greater than Abraham, because he is the oldest. He's the oldest person who is the promised people of God. And he's saying even Abraham gave homage to this man named Melchizedek. He gave him 10% of his spoils, and he blessed Abraham. He's pointing out the fact that that someone who's greater will always bless the lesser. So here is someone who is greater than Abraham. Not only that, David, who everybody sees as their great king, you know, the greatest king in history, he prophesied about the coming Messiah. Everybody knew that he would be a descendant. You know, he's a descendant of David from the line of Judah. And he wrote in his Psalms, he says, my Lord says to my Lord, which means that there has to be 2 steps above David. Now, how could there be 2 steps above David? You know, he's the greatest king ever. But he's looking at this descendant, he's looking at this coming Messiah, and he's saying, my Lord says to my Lord, you are a priest. Now this in itself is mysterious. How could a descendant of David be a priest? David is a descendant of Judah, and all the priests are from the tribe of Levi. So already we have something funny here. But he says, you are a priest forever. Now, how could anybody be a priest forever? You can only be a priest as long as you live. But if you have someone who lived and died and rose again and is now sitting at the right hand of God, you know, who everybody Many people have said they have seen him risen. You could say that this could be the only person that could be a priest forever. You have to have someone who lives forever. And this is a funny mix of people. How could someone who is a descendant of David, someone who is born of man, live forever? So this is an interesting statement. You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. Now that means that there's the order of Levi and there's the order of Melchizedek, and they're two different orders, but they're both from God, because not only David, their greatest king, recognizes him, but their oldest descendant recognizes him. So it's really a great example of how these traditions and how their worship of maybe not worship, but their recognition of respecting their elders is kind of gone awry. Their respecting of elders is misplaced because of this person, Melchizedek, and who he is symbolizing. Now it says here that his name means Prince of Righteousness, another clear symbol of Jesus. He is also the king of Salem. Now he is the king of a place called Salem. We recognize this probably as Jerusalem, but here he's the king of Salem, which means peace. So he's the king of peace and he's the king of righteousness. And when you became a priest, it meant that you were from the Levitical line. So you needed to be a Levite. You had to have a genealogy. And they're saying here that he had no genealogy. We don't know where he came from. We didn't know where he was going. He didn't have any descendants that we could speak of. Now, some people have took this to mean, and I'm not saying that it's not true, but I will say that it doesn't need to be true, but it's an interesting thought. I like to think that it's true. And that is that Melchizedek himself was in fact a pre-incarnate Christ. That means that God just kind of brought, or Jesus just came down himself before he was born. I've even heard some people say that after he went up to heaven, he actually went back in time. Jesus can be a time traveler, and so after he was crucified, the risen Jesus went back in time and became Melchizedek. This is something that we cannot prove. It's something that it's fun to think about, but ultimately we don't know. An interesting theory too is that if you look at Noah and his descendants, and you look at the time, the sons of Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, I forget which one. Some people think that Melchizedek could be either the son of Shem or the son of Japheth, or that he was one of those people and he just changed his name. But we know from reading the Bible that the sons of Noah would have been still around. They would have still been alive. They could have very well have known Melchizedek. Anyways, it's a little off topic, but I think it's interesting. So Melchizedek was this perfect sign of Jesus, and he's a perfect sign that had been prophesied, that there is someone coming, a descendant, who is greater than Abraham, who is greater than David, who David and Abraham both see as the king of the Most High God, and so when he is talking, the writer of the Hebrews is talking to the Jewish people. He's saying you can trust in Jesus, you can trust in his priesthood, because he is a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. So that is Hebrews chapter 7. Have a great day. Bye.